Hello there, this is Coach Cameron Roberts. Thank you very much for tuning in to On Deck with Coach Cameron. That's hashtag On Deck with Coach Cameron. Now you can find us here every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time Australia, so that's Sydney, Australia time. And if you're wanting to watch the recordings later on, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on iTunes and SoundCloud or YouTube. And all you need to do is go to your preferred social media channel and type in the hashtag On Deck with Coach Cameron and we'll pop up. So this is the first episode and I'm really excited about this episode because we're going to start off with how to create a marketing plan in 5 simple steps for small business owners. Now, this show is about empowering entrepreneurs, business owners, coaches, consultants, and success-minded people with real strategies that you can use in your life and your business and your career to get where you want to go. We'll be having regular guests on the program. So if you'd like to feature as a guest, if you're watching this and you think, hey, this would be really cool, I'd love to come on Cameron's internet program, on his program On Deck with Coach Cameron, and be a guest. And you can do a soft promotion of your products, but you must have an inspirational story. So if you've got an inspirational story, if you feel like you can empower people in such a way, if you feel like you've got something great to give people, a great story, something that's motivating, something that's inspiring, something that can help them in their lives, their business, and their careers, I'd love to have you on the show. And I can interview you and we can find out more about you and you can help other people. And we'll broadcast you to our social media channels and we'll give you some exposure. So if you'd like that, if you like that idea about being on the show, all you need to do is go to our website at coachcameronroberts.com, and about a third of the way down the page, you'll see a link there where you can apply to be a guest on the show. So that's all you need to do is just go to coachcamerons.com, third way down the page, and you can apply to be on the show. Now, I've made some notes today because I do want to cover off on everything that I've promised to cover off in the snippet that I put in to the program. So episode 1 is about how to create a marketing plan for small business in 5 simple steps. So step number 1 is that you've got to create some goals. For those of you who don't know me, I come from a sports coaching background. And in fact, this is many, many years ago now, well over a decade ago. But when I was a younger bloke than what I am now, when I was a younger bloke, I coached professional sports and I coached swimming, surf lifesaving, and triathlon. So I had athletes in all of those 3 different sports. And at one time, just in the swimming pool, in the swimmers, at one time in a 7-year coaching career, I coached over 150 state champions and over 30 national champions and medalists in a 7-year coaching career. A few of my athletes went on to gain full scholarships at the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra and swim under their coaches and do quite well from there. I also coached over 35 Ironman finishers. Now, an Ironman triathlon I'm talking about. So for those of you who don't know, an Ironman race in triathlons, so that's a swim, a bike, and a run. An Ironman race is a grueling 3.8 kilometre swim. And I describe to people the Ironman swim is more like a boxing match in the water. Can you imagine about 1,500 to 2,500 people all lined up in a lake, in a waterway somewhere, all traveling the same distance to the same first buoy or first buoy to get a turnaround? And so that's what happens in an Ironman swim. You've got all of these people. And if you're not a great swimmer, this can really cause you a lot of commotion and a lot of problems because you have, 200 people swimming around you in such a small radius and they're all moving in the same direction. So it's like a boxing match in the water. You got people climbing over you and pulling your feet and ducking your head underwater and scratching you. People are just trying to get their own space in the swim. They often say that if you survive the swim in an Ironman race, if you survive the 3.8 kilometre swim, then you're set up for the rest of the race. The goal is to survive the swim and then your race starts, right? So anyway, when I used to coach the Ironman and the Iron women, I coached 35 of them, to many of them their best times. And the Ironman, as I was saying, is a 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre bike ride, and a 42.2 kilometre run. So it's a marathon at the end. The average time for most people is around 11 and a half hours for the Ironman, sometimes 12. Personally, I did the Ironman myself. I've done a few in Australia. I've done Kona. I've done the World Championships, finished top 5% in Australia, top 30%. So I don't tell you this to impress you. The reason I'm telling you this because we're about to talk about goals. On the internet these days, everyone's a star, right? Everyone's, broadcasting themselves and what have you. And there's always the next guru or the next, so-called expert in their field. Whereas my strategies come from my real life experience, what I've experienced in my life and how I've helped other people. So, I tell you those stories about the athletes I've coached and the people I've coached, not to impress you, but to impress upon you that the strategies I'm about to share with you, I applied when I was coaching those people. And to this day, I've now flipped the model, and I'm a highly paid small business consultant. I consult the small business owners, small to medium enterprises. Other coaches and consultants come to me for advice on their marketing, on their sales. So I coach many other people, and the way that I help them is that I help them get their outcomes in advance. And one of the ways that we do this is by, as I said, getting their goals right and helping them achieve their outcomes in advance. So, again, I don't tell you this to impress you, but I just to impress upon you that, I've got a little bit of experience, just a tiny bit of experience in helping people achieve their goals. So the strategies that I'm sharing with you are proven strategies, and they're proven in real life. They're proven in real life. They've been proven in sport. They've been proven in business and entrepreneurship. So get a pen and get ready to write them down. So the 5 simple steps to creating a marketing plan. Step number 1 is the most important one, and that is, as I said, knowing your outcomes in advance. Now, there's a few things that I used to teach my young and up-and-coming athletes about setting goals. And the first one was knowing where you are. So for someone to excel in sport or in business, they must know where they are right now. They must know exactly where they are right now to get to where they want to go. You see, if you don't know where you are now, if you can't articulate where you are, if you can't put down on paper where your business is at right now, where your consulting business, your real estate business, whatever it is that you do, if you can't put down on paper where you are right now, it's pretty hard to work out where you want to go, right? So the first thing I always get my athletes and my entrepreneurs to do, and the other coaches, consultants, and business owners that I coach, I always get them to write down where they are now. And honestly, and they've got to do it in an honest and a transparent way. And that's a real revelation for a lot of people, because business people and entrepreneurs, they just get busy being busy, and they get so busy just doing the busyness of life and the busyness of business, they actually forget to see where they are. And it's by writing down where they are that they realize the massive holes that they have in their processes, in their marketing, in their sales systems. So that's the first thing I always get people to do, is I get them to write down where they are now. Now, once you've established where you are, then you need to start creating a plan about where you want to go. So this is the first step to creating a marketing plan. So we're talking about the 5 simple steps that you can do. This is the first step. So the first step is that you need to create some goals. And one of the simplest ways to create goals is to create what I call short, medium, and long-term goals. And maybe you've heard of this before, and maybe this isn't, any revelating news to you. Maybe it's not, earth-shattering news to you. But hey, maybe you haven't done your goals for a while. Maybe you don't review them enough. So what I recommend you do is you write down your short-term goals. So what are all the goals that you want to achieve in your business, in your marketing efforts, in the next 3 months? So between where you are now and the next 3 months, so 12 weeks, right? So 3 months or thereabouts, what is it that you want to achieve? What is the outcomes that you want to get? What do you want to be, do, and have in your marketing, in your business, in whatever it is that you're doing? What is it that you want to be, do, and have in the next 3 months? What are the outcomes that you want to achieve? Now, you probably only want, say, 3 to 5 things that you want to list, but do your best to be descriptive. Make it real and write it in present tense. So, for instance, if you wanted to double your sales, and just say for argument's sake, you're making $500,000 a year and you wanted to double your sales and you wanted to make $1 million a year. Well, you would write as a goal, not a short-term goal, because that might be a year goal, but if it was a long-term goal, you would write something like, if you currently earn $500,000 a year, you would write, my business earns $1 million per year. You get me? So that's how you write your goal. You write your goal in present tense. So you don't write your goal like, I want to earn $1 million a year. No, that's a big mistake. So it's the same. When I used to coach athletes, I used to get them to write their goals in present tense. So, what time they wanted to do, and that's who they become. So you've got to write your goals down on like who you want to become. So your short-term goals are all the things that you want to be, do, and have in the next 3 months, but write them in present tense. And you want about 3 to 5. You want a list of 3 to 5 outcomes in advance that you want to be, do, and have in the next 3 months in your marketing. Now, once you've done that, then you create some medium-term goals, because after those first 12 weeks, then what's next, right? So between months 3 and 6 are your medium-term goals. So your short-term goals are all the things that you want to create, you want to do in the next 3 months. Your medium-term goals are the things that happen between the 3-month time and the 6-month time frame. Okay, you with me? So from 3 months to 6 months, they're your medium-term goals. And again, even though you're just throwing it out there, write them in present tense, and also make sure that you just limit your list. Don't go and write 20 things and then you only achieve 1 or 2 of them. So again, just write 3 to 5 things that that you're going to be committed to achieving. Okay, and then after you've done that, then write down your long-term goals. Now, your long-term goals, you may only have 3 things, and again, only write things down that that you'll do. See, it's no good writing something down if you write 20 things down and you just know that you're not going to get them done. With your busy lifestyle, the other things that you're doing in your business, your family, you want to travel, whatever it is that you're doing, there's no use in writing 20 things down if you know you're only going to get a handful done. So be realistic and just write 3 long-term goals. So your long-term goals are anything past the 6-month time frame. Okay, so you've got your short-term goals between 3 and 6 months. You've got your medium-term goals between now and 3 months. So you've got your medium-term goals between 3 months and 6 months, and then you've got your long-term goals between 6 months and beyond. Now, once you've established your long-term goals, you need to start breaking them down. And once you've got your goals, and we're still on the first step to creating a marketing plan, and you're creating a marketing plan for your business, even for your career. Hey, you could use this marketing plan to double your own income. If you don't own a business and maybe you're just someone who's, maybe you work for someone else, you can use this system that I've created for success. You can use it to double your own income, to, further your own career, right? So what I want you to do now is, after you've got your short, medium, and long-term goals, I want you to create some action points. What are some action points? What are some action tasks that you're going to do and get done from the short-term goals? Then what are some action tasks, and what are you going to do and get done for the medium-term goals? And what are some action tasks based around the long-term goals? Now, once you have your action tasks, remember, the goals are the things that you want to achieve. Your action tasks are the things that you're going to do, so that they're the actions that you're going to take to get the goal done. Now, once you've got your action tasks, I want you to list them from 1 to 5. So what's the most important one? That'd be number 1. And then the second most important one would be number 2 and number 3, and so on. Now, after you've done that process, you now have a mini plan for where you're about to go. This is like the journey, if you like, for your success in your marketing. So you've created some goals and you've created some action tasks. And also the final thing on that is give your tasks a completion date. So after you've numbered your tasks from 1 to 5, right next to them, when are you going to complete that task by? Okay, so for instance, maybe your short-term goals is, one of your short-term goals might be to increase your website conversion. Okay, so maybe you know that your website's not converting, and for whatever reason, you got a website 3 or 5 years ago. Maybe it's not mobilized, it's a bit clunky when you look at it on a mobile smartphone or whatever. So maybe it's time to look at getting a mobile site, because, hey, over 55% of all internet searches are done on a smartphone screen, on a smaller screen. So you need to make sure that your website is mobilized. So maybe that's one of your goals. So the goal would be to get a mobile-friendly, high-converting website, okay? Now, the task might be to start looking for the right coach or the right professional service provider who can help you build that site. And then another goal might be to get the right copywriter who can write the right copy, to get the right images. Hey, maybe it's to put a tracking pixel on there. Maybe it's to do some advertising for it. Hey, you work out what the action points are, but make sure you list them from 1 to 5 and then put an expiry date or a due date on those action points for each of those goals. Okay, so let's move on to step 2. So that was step 1. So we're doing 5 simple steps of how to create a marketing plan for small businesses. Now, the next step is to establish some new marketing habits. Now, your habits will determine your future. So, what you do every single day by your habitual habit, the things you do habitually will determine your destiny, you see. So what you do every day will determine who you are. So for instance, if you get up and run every day, you'll be a very fit and healthy type person. If you get up and have a healthy breakfast and run, and that's part of your habits, well, then you can see you're going to be a different person to someone who sleeps in and has, a high-fat breakfast every morning. You can see over the period of 6 or 12 months, by the habit of chosen, even if they were twins, they'll end up on different paths. One will end up with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm for their life. The other one will be drained and tired and always what we call buggered and busted, right? So your habits determine your future in advance. So what new marketing habits are you going to create? I mean, it's like a bodybuilder. A bodybuilder, someone who works out in the gym, they have habits that they do. They habitually go to the gym. They habitually eat the right foods. They stretch. They consume plenty of water. They habitually drink a lot of protein at certain times of the day, in their protein shakes and all of that. They do certain muscle groups at certain times. They have habits that they've formed that allows them to, build up their body in such a way and define their muscles in such a way that's, above what the normal person could or should, or, what the normal person could do. So, just like a bodybuilder has habits to create an outcome like that, what have you got to do in your business? What have you got to do in your marketing, with your marketing? What habits do you need to form each week? Maybe one of the habits is to get in the process of writing more content for your website. Maybe a habit is to send out, 2 emails every week on Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe it's just 1 email to your list. Maybe a new habit is to, do a YouTube video every week or a YouTube video every month. Maybe a new habit is to create, a team meeting at the start of every week on Monday. And on every Monday, you're going to sit down with your team and you're going to talk about all the marketing that you're going to do over the next week. What do you need to get done? That's a habit, sitting down with your team and working out what it is that you need to do. So step 2 of creating a marketing plan is to get some new habits, because your habits control your destiny. So I want you to write that down. What are the new habits? And, again, don't give yourself a list of 20 things to do, because, we're all busy these days. We're also busy being busy. We're caught up in the busyness of life and the busyness of just doing business. So I would highly recommend that you just pick 3, maybe at the most 5, 3 to 5 new marketing habits. So marketing, objectives, outcomes, marketing things that you're going to do that are related to marketing and sales in your business. So what are 3 to 5 things that you're going to do every single week without fail? You're going to form a new habit. You're going to do it for 21 days straight without stopping. And you're going to form that new habit and you're going to keep doing it. Now, once you've got those 3 new habits down pat and you've done them for 21 days and they're now, formed as part of your business, they're part of who you are, and that you do them religiously and relentlessly, well, only then can you form some new habits, okay? But you've got to get the first 3 done first, okay? So do the first 3, nail those ones, get them out of the way, and then do the next 3. Okay, so that's step number 2, right? That was simple step number 2. So step number one, create some goals. Step number 2, establish some new marketing habits. Step number 3, thinly slice your market. So what we mean by this is what you need to do with your marketing is to thinly slice it. You need to target market. It's almost like a laser beam. You need to be concentrated with your marketing effort. Yes, you can advertise to everyone and everybody, but you know what? Not everyone or everybody needs your service. Not everyone or everybody is in fact your ideal client or your ideal prospect. So why advertise to everyone and everybody? I'll share a little story with you. I just started working with a business owner recently, and he was telling me, I think, and I'm not quite right, but I think it was about 20,000 or maybe even 30,000, but he put a lot of brochures out. So he created this flyer and he just blanketed the whole district where he lived with 20,000 flyers, and he was surprised that he didn't get a response. Well, you see, even though that went out to 20,000 people, there's a few things that went on there. Number one, maybe the call to action wasn't right. Maybe the headline wasn't right. Maybe the offer wasn't right. And maybe the market wasn't right. Maybe all the people there wasn't right for them, because maybe his ideal client might not even live with him, right? Sorry, not live with him, but live near his business, right, where he's at. So you've got to thinly slice the market. So instead of sending out 20,000 flyers, how can you find 400 people who are willing to listen to what you have to say, who are willing to read what you have to put on paper? I mean, think about this. The average person, they say in marketing, needs to experience your business up to 5 to 7 times before they'll make a buying decision. Now, if that's true, how much money do you have to burn on, sending 20,000 flyers out? You've got to do 20,000 flyers 7 times, right, to get the same effect as getting 400 or even 200 people and sending something to those 200 people 7 times with the same similar offer, similar call to action, 7 tweak here and there, right? So that's thinly slicing your market. Now, the second part of that is to create what we call a niche within a niche. Now, excuse me. One of the businesses that I ran and did quite well at was we niched a business so finally that we said our target market is aged between this and this. They look like this. They drive these types of cars. They live in this type of suburb. They spend this much money on X. They spend this much money on Y. We get a picture of what our target market is, and then we promote to them. So you need to thinly slice your marketing. If you're going for everybody and everyone, that's going to dilute your marketing efforts. So step number 4 in creating a marketing plan is to thinly slice your market and establish who in fact is your ideal prospect. Who is your target market? What do they look like? Where do they dress? What do they dress? What cars do they drive? Where do they live? What type of houses do they live in? What are their recreational activities? Where do they go for holidays? Who already has them? So what we mean by who already has them is what other businesses do they also use? What other things do they also buy? The more you can get inside your prospect's head and thinly slice that marketing, the more effective that your marketing is going to be. Okay, so that's step number 3, simple step number 3. Simple step number 4 is to create a sales process. Recently, I heard a story about one business that was spending over $180,000 a year on marketing and 0 on sales systems or sales training. Now, the biggest challenge with that is that if they're, blanketing to everyone, they send a blanket message out to everybody and everyone, yeah, people will come in and look at their products and shop around. But here's the problem. Once someone gets into the store, if you don't have any sales processes in place, if your people aren't skilled up in selling to people, if you don't have a sales pipeline, all you're ever doing is selling to the lowest hanging fruit. That's people who can buy now. But when, all the people that come into a shop over a weekend or a major retail outlet, that could only be less than 10%, maybe even 5% of people will only be buyers. So you can dramatically increase your conversion rate by having a sales pipeline. Now, if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a real estate agent, if you run a service-driven business, you're a personal trainer, you're a gym owner, anyone that runs a service-driven business, it is critical. I mean, it's critical for everyone to have sales processes, but if you run a service-driven business, it is critical that you have a sales pipeline. And a sales pipeline is a simple process of tracking what happens to my prospects, my customers, and my clients as they travel through my business. So as they fill out a web form and they opt in for some information on my website, what happens to them? And then what happens to them next? And then as they become a customer, then what happens? And then what do I do for them? And then what marketing message do I send to them? And as they go to the next stage, then what happens? Now, what tasks occur when they go to stage 5? And when they go to stage 6, then what happens? You see, when you create your sales pipeline, what you need to do is create different stages of the pipeline, and then you need to determine what tasks or what things should happen within each stage from the prospect's point of view. So, how should they experience your business when they're in stage 3? Which will be a different experience for them when they're in stage 7, which will be a different experience for them again when they're in stage 10, and they're no longer a prospect. They've moved through your funnel, and now they're a raving fan, and they're referring other people that they also know, like, and trust to you, because everyone knows someone like them. So they're now at stage 10. They're a raving fan, and they're referring people to you. So that's step number 4, is to create a sales process. And it's pretty easy process to do, and there's lots of CRM and programs that do that for you. But hey, just start out on a piece of paper and create a sales pipeline and a sales funnel. And there's some software out there these days. You can automate that, and you can automate your sales pipeline. If you're interested in that, you can check out our website, and I'll give you more information on that. Now, the last thing is that you need to test and measure your marketing. You see, just like a top-level athlete tests and measures themselves against their competition, against themselves, so you should too with your marketing and your business. In sports, they test themselves through competition. Well, how do you test yourself in your business? How do you test yourself with your marketing? What do you do? How do you measure success? How do you know when you're successful in your business? How do you know when your marketing's been successful? What are the conversion rates? So some of the things that you want to look at with your marketing is you need to understand the matrices of your business. You need to use tracking pixels on your advertising and on your websites. You need to study and understand the conversion rates. So, a lot of people get hung up about how many people visit their website. So, for instance, when they do Google AdWords or they do Facebook advertising, they're only interested in how many people, visited their site. Well, it's pointless if you've got a website that's getting 500 visits a month, but you're not converting anyone. Recently I came across a business owner who started to he's asking me for help, and I'm now coaching him. Well, we looked at his website, and even though he was getting 500 visitors a month, he was getting no new inquiries. So he had 0 conversions. So it doesn't matter what's on the website, it wasn't converting. And it doesn't matter how much more money we keep throwing at it, it's a low converting website. It was converting nobody. So if we throw more advertising at it and we steer more traffic towards it, even if we take it up from 500 to 1,000, you can see the problem he's going to face. So if he can't convert 500 people, how many is he going to convert of 1,000? 1 or 2? So you can see the challenge isn't the advertising. That for him, it wasn't the traffic. For him, the challenge is the conversion. There's a disconnect going on between when people visit his website and then they don't take action. They don't follow through. Maybe the call to action's not strong enough. Maybe the offer's not strong enough. Whatever it is, there's no, other option for them to, find out more information. Whatever it was for him, obviously it's not working, and he needs to fix his site. So for you, what is it? How do you measure success in your business? How do you measure the marketing in your business? How do you test that? So some of the things you should be looking at is using tracking pixels, but you don't just use tracking pixels on one of the landing pages. Again, this is a big mistake a lot of people make, is they get a tracking pixel and they'll only put it on the landing page. Well, that's great, but it'll only tell you how many people landed on that page. What you need to do is you need to use 2 tracking pixels for each campaign, you see. So if you have an ad, You want to know how many people landed on the page, and then you want to know how many people clicked through or opted in and then ended up on the thank you page. So you put the first tracking pixel on the landing page and you put the second tracking pixel on the thank you page. That way you can now measure the conversion rate, and you can simply see how effective your marketing and your advertising dollar is being spent on the likes of Google AdWords and Facebook ads. Another great strategy for testing and measuring marketing is what we call A and B split testing. So with your online ads, you can look at putting two ads together, identically the same, with the identical budget, and maybe just changing the image. Or you can put two ads together with the same image, and the only change will be the headline. Now, when you do A and B split testing, there's no reason why you have to have two. You don't just have to have an A and B. What you should be doing is having 10 different campaigns. If you use Facebook ads or Google ads or something like that, you should have 10 different campaigns, and each campaign has its own ad in it. The big mistake a lot of people make again here is they get a campaign and they'll stack 10 or 20 ads in the same campaign. That's a big mistake. What you need to do with your digital marketing and digital advertising is for each campaign, you only have one ad in that campaign. And then you duplicate that and you create another campaign with its own ad in that campaign, and then another campaign with its own ad in that campaign. And that way you can test and measure much more effectively with your conversion rates for each campaign, you see, as opposed to each ad. So you can test it out for each campaign. Now, what you need to do is you can create 10 different ads, and you can just change one little thing at a time, and then you can run those 10 different ads simultaneously, all at the same time, all with the same budget, and you can test and measure which ones are better. Or you can run them at different times. So you might run the first ad for week 1, the second ad for week 2, the third ad for week 3, the fourth ad for week 4, or you can run 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together for a week, or 4 and 5 together for a week. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you're getting some testing and measuring. And what will happen over time is that you'll see a pattern emerge. And the only way to find out what the prospect wants is to actually test it. So you've got to do some testing. And by doing that simple process that I just explained then, it will allow you to find out what the numbers are in your advertising, in your digital advertising. And you'll see over time that, one particular ad has 200 people clicking through, but it might have a conversion rate of 1 to 2.5%, whatever it is. But another ad might only get 100 people click through for whatever reason, but the conversion rate might have been 2.3 to 3%. So then you can decide which ad to run in the future, the one that gets less hits but a higher conversion. Or what you can do is you can take the copy of the one that had the highest leads and then put it into the one that's had the better conversions, and so on. You get me? But it gives you the unique ability to be able to test and measure your results, just like a high-performing athlete does when they do their competitions. If you're a tennis player, you go and play high-level comps. If you're a boxer, you go and fight the best boxers. If you're, a triathlete, if you're a cyclist, like got the cycle jersey in the background, that's actually Cadel Evans' jersey. It's been signed by Cadel Evans when he won the Tour de France. So, hey, that's pretty cool, right? But anyway, so, it's like a cyclist. It's like any athlete. They do their competition for one reason, because they want to test themselves. They want to test their ability. They do the training, and then they go and test themselves through competition. So you've got to do the same with your marketing. You want to do some testing and then tweaking. Do some testing and then tweaking. That's the only way that you're going to get better outcomes at what you do. Well, I trust that's been helpful for episode 1, how to create a marketing plan for small business in 5 simple steps. You've been tuning in to On Deck with Coach Cameron. That's hashtag On Deck with Coach Cameron. I trust you've enjoyed episode 1. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, please do so. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Cameron. You can search for Coach Cameron Roberts on YouTube. And if you want to listen to this on iTunes, if you want to download these as a podcast on iTunes again, just go to iTunes or SoundCloud and search for hashtag On Deck with Coach Cameron and subscribe to our program. Hey, if you've enjoyed this, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. That'd be really cool. And I'll talk to you really soon. This is Coach Cameron signing out.